So I figured it was time I jumped on here and updated everybody, I guess. Because I've gotten some questions about if I'm still doing tarot readings. And I guess the short answer is no. At least not on my site. I'm still reading tarot, like for myself and for like my close friends, but I am not offering them professionally anymore just because I just don't have the time. So um earlier this year in my personal spiritual practice, I I had like an epiphany, I guess. And I there's some pretty deep introspection. Um I ended up I'm going back to school. I decided to go back to school and get my art degree, which is what I wanted to do when I was originally in school a long time ago, and not the route that I went. And I'm not like I don't regret the route that I took. I'm actually very happy that I did what I did because it has allowed me to do so many things, and sort of create a stable foundation for myself that's not dependent on anybody else. So it also has led me to this point where now that I want to do something maybe a little financially frivolous, like get an art degree, I can do that, and it doesn't hinder my sort of earthly well-being, I guess you could say. Like, I have the energy and the time and, quite frankly, the money to spare to support my passions and desires. And so that's where I'm at with life right now. That's where my spiritual practice has sort of led me. It was kind of telling me to do that for a very long time. I just was not in a place, mentally, emotionally, well, maybe emotionally, but mentally, financially, or even geographically, to be able to do something like go back to school for a second degree while also working full time. Um, and now I am. And so yeah, that's kind of where the cards have led me, literally and figuratively. So I'm grateful for that, and yet it means that I haven't been on here as much and I'm no longer reading professionally, which I'm actually fine with, because reading professionally for me was never really about like an income in any way. It was just something that I enjoyed doing for people. So hopefully, maybe the end of the summer when I have some time off from school and can devote my free time elsewhere, well, when I have free time again, maybe it's something I'll pick back up. But for now, it's not really something I'm feasibly able to do, at least for the next, well, I guess for at least the next few weeks, maybe months, save for the breaks in between. So that's that. What else has been going on? I actually wasn't even gonna come on here and really like announce anything. I just felt that it was a good time to sort of officially state that, because I switched up the decks that I was using. And I always personally like watching people's practice videos because I like seeing what decks they use and how they use them, and how they work with the artwork, because I find them very engaging, and it's less consumeristic than many of the other videos that are on this platform. So, and I'll probably just insert like a little side video just so you can see the decks that I'm actually talking about. But having started school again and sort of just diving into that big undertaking has sort of left me, I don't want to use the term overwhelmed, because it's not unmanageable, but I definitely feel like I have more to do now. Like before, my life was very much just like my job, and then whatever, everything else was leisure time. And that's not really the case anymore. So, and then plus having part of my time now going to this, that means there's less time to do all the other things that I do kind of need to do, just like planning wise. So, yeah, I wouldn't say I've been feeling overwhelmed, but I've definitely have been feeling the scheduling pressures, I suppose. And yeah, just like, you know, in a single day I have so much more that I need to do. So I've been finding myself feeling kind of anxious, I guess, like in a way, like, and not like I'm overwhelmed with anxiety, but just in my mind there's like a constant list of things that are just running, like, you know, like the credits in a movie of like that needs to get done. And I'm aware of it. So in overall, my life had become very much more hectic. Maybe not if you looked at my life it would look that way, but in my head that's what was going on. So that being said, that kind of put me in a space where the decks that I was using were not helping me. I have been using, I would say probably since, oh wow, it's already the end of June. Oh, it's the beginning of July, duh. I would say since beginning of April, mid-March, I've been using the same decks, which is a long stretch for me. I was using I'll start with the Oracle decks. I was using the Begin Oracle, which is absolutely, I was gonna say gorgeous, but you know, I mean, it is gorgeous, but more so thought-provoking, especially because I paired it with the Aqua, I want to say Marie, but it could be Aqua Mary tarot deck. And I mentioned that in a previous video, how I would do like sort of like blind readings with it. Like I would just have some cards and then like face down and then choose oracle cards to go with it, and then sort of analyze the two together when I turn them face up. So I would blindly pair them and then see what spoke to me from the two meanings. And that was an incredibly deep dive, I realized, in doing that, because some of the pairings were really profound. And I journaled on all of them. I went through every single minor arcana that way. And so then I started using my Naughty by Nature tarot. I couldn't think of it. Just to sort of lighten the mood. And that was not a mistake, but it did lighten the mood. And I quickly realized that is only a deck to use when you're in a certain mood, because otherwise it is kind of offensive to you. like when you keep, there's certain decks you can't use to sit down and like be serious, you know? Like if you're trying to do a deep spiritual dive, you don't want to see like a bunch of dildos symbolically referencing something else if you're not in that headspace. So, but I kept it out because I was using it for when I was just feeling, you know, that way. And I was using that a lot with the what is the name of the deck? I think so. When I bought it, it was called the Oniromancy Oracle deck or something like that, and I think the creator recently changed the name. But in any event, I've always loved this Oracle deck. It's not, I wouldn't say it's really straightforward, but the artwork is pretty clear, and the keywords are unique. So I was using that deck and sort of to just help clarify a lot of things, because the Naughty by Nature Tarot is extremely symbolic, which is fine, you know. And then I was also using my Everyday Enchantment Tarot deck, because I liked the practicality of the imagery, and like the actual scenes or things that you would find yourself in real life, and like real people, and as opposed to something symbolic like the Naughty by Nature Tarot. And however, the Everyday Enchantment Tarot is not a light deck, partly because there's so much going on in the cards visually, but also because it's very emotional, even aside from what happened in real life. But there's a lot of emotion in all of the images, so it's very easy to relate to as a reading deck, but it's also very tiring for that emotional, I guess spark is the word, like the emotion that it ignites within you to sympathize with and empathize. So yeah, basically my lineup was pretty heavy, and that on top of the fact that I had all of these things in my outside life besides my spiritual practice going on, I really found myself just needing like something light to work with. And so actually this very morning I was like, I just can't, like I want to sit down with my cards, and I don't want to think about things like I just want to see the meaning, and my intuition is strong enough to be able to do that, even with like heavy decks. But then with the heavier decks, they also make you think a little more, which, you know, has its time and place. But that in and of itself can be overwhelming when you have your mind on so many other things, and you want to just remove the thought process and have like that more immediate connection with your own intuition in your spiritual practice. And there are decks that are better for that than the ones that I was working with. Not that this is not that either way is better or more beneficial than the other. It's just about where you are at a certain time. So I switched my decks up, and I pulled out two of my lighter decks, and I still am working with the Oneiromancy deck, because I've always used that pretty consistently actually since I've had it. It's one of the few Oracle decks I could say I use a lot, and not just for dream work, even though it's called the Oneiromancy Oracle. So I'm using that. I still kept out my Begin Oracle, just because a card that I pulled this morning was like spot on accurate, like immediately so. So I was like, okay, maybe if I just pair this with a simple deck, then a deep Oracle deck won't be as frustrating or overwhelming sometimes. So I left out those two Oracle decks, and the tarot decks that I took out are the my Golden Girls Tarot and my This Might Hurt deck. And I just looked over it and I realized I took out another one. I think that's my Not So Mystical Tarot deck. I don't know, this morning I was kind of like on somewhat of a rampage, and I just was just pulling what I could. Yeah, it's my Not So Mystical deck. So my Golden Girls Tarot deck, I just felt like, first of all, it looks great with my Oneiromancy deck. It has a somewhat similar color palette, maybe a little more neon and less pastel tones, but the same color family. And it's just easy to relate to, because I mean I grew up watching for years, and still, like, if I had cable, I would probably still turn on the Golden Girls. Now I think you can watch it on maybe like Amazon Prime Video or something like that. But anyway, I feel like I know the characters in the deck. I don't have to think about what the Queen of Swords means or is trying to say when she comes out and Dorothy's on it, versus like the Queen of Swords in some other deck that I don't know who she is, if that makes sense. I don't have to think about like what this situation could mean, because like I know the scenes so well. Like it's just because it's using a theme that I'm so familiar with, I don't have to peel back all of the layers of the card as meticulously. So that's why I was pulled or drawn to use that deck. The This Might Hurt deck actually was just right underneath or on top of my Golden Girls tarot, and I don't know, I just looked through it and I was like, oh, this one is actually also pretty, like a very light reader in terms of reading level. So I left that one out too, just to have some options, like when I want a more like cartoony type feel. Because I also was thinking about using my Spacious tarot, but I didn't really want animals. Like I wanted to see some people, so that's why I went with these two. And then my Not So Mystical, same reason. The card meanings are a little more, the layers are a little more nuanced, but they just feel a lot more quickly accessible. Also because I've had that deck for so long and worked with it so often. So those are the 3 decks I have out, meaning not on my major shelf where I keep all my decks, but just on my mini shelf that I keep on the wall that I walk by so I can just grab whatever. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I mean, my daily practice is much more obviously art focused, which is in and of itself for me a spiritual practice, because that's how everyone has a hobby that when they're doing, they feel most in tune with themselves. And for me, ever since I was a kid, it's been art. That one thing you could do where you like completely lose track of time, you forget to eat. Not that I'm encouraging that, I'm just saying like that's how focused you are on something where your earthly needs are irrelevant. And so that has been, in terms of spiritual practice, how I am honoring myself and my passion and purpose. And for the longest time, and then especially the beginning of this year, that has been a theme of mine, to honor your passion or honor your purpose. And then what is your purpose? Well, find your passion, and that's probably where your purpose is. That has been coming up consistently for the first couple months of the year, until I, then had that, like, honestly, I was just going to take an art class, and then I was like, it's more practical financially to just do the degree as a matriculated student than it is to just take a class. And then plus there's more accountability. It's what I actually want to do. And it's a deeper dive into what I owe to myself. So there's that. Honestly, if I look back at my readings from a couple years ago, I probably would have seen that that's what I should have done. But you can't always just sit down with your cards, i.e. your higher self, i.e. your guides, and get the message right away. Because even if it's being said, sometimes it's not in alignment with where you're at in your path. And that's okay. There's nothing like, that's not to say that you're doing something wrong. It's just to say you haven't gotten that far down the path yet. And so it's not so much telling you, but just warning you. Like, just putting up little road signs of like, hey, your exit's coming up in 5 miles. That doesn't mean to turn off right now. That means, hey, in 5 miles, be prepared. You're gonna have to switch lanes. And so it's kind of been an interesting play out of my just seeing how the own tools you use in your spiritual practice are always connected with your subconscious and higher conscious, before you're ready to even act on anything. And so that's where that has kind of led me. I do plan, I mean, like, I would make more videos or even shorts, just like, you know, life of an art student or just my own like weekly practice. But I don't know, I feel like obviously everyone started following this channel for tarot related reasons, but we all have lives outside of tarot, you know, and it's okay when tarot is not like your main tool for self-expression anymore or self-discovery. And I even did a read on that for myself because I was like, why is this not what I'm coming to every single day anymore, but more like a couple times a week, which is a healthy amount, by the way. I mean, a daily practice, I could do a whole nother video on that, but anyway. And yeah, it's different. It's just a different energy, you know. You should have various ways of expressing your own energy. And I actually like when other creators, like I should say content creators on YouTube, or like people in the community, show other parts of themselves than just the cards. You know, we don't always fit into an archetype of the cards. There's so many other things that to talk about as a spiritual community than just what decks you bought recently. But yeah, I don't know how many people would be interested in watching videos on other parts of my life, so I don't know, let me know. But for now, this is kind of what it is and what it's gonna look like. I mean, this was a really long stretch because I just started, you know, managing my time better. But yeah, this is why you haven't seen as much tarot related content, because my life isn't solely focused on tarot, because I finally heard the message that it was trying to tell me. And yeah, obviously, like as I just showed, because I just showed you all the decks I'm working with, it's still very much a part of my life, but it's more complementary, like, than consuming. So that's that. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in and for still being interested, I guess. We'll see how... And, you know, someone did say they wanted to see a deep dive on the Naughty by Nature Tarot, which I do think that I will do that. It'll probably be towards the end of the year, but I think that's a great idea because it's not a very popular deck, and I don't see it that often. So yeah, that's probably something that I will do. But again, probably towards the end of the year, so I can jump back into it, because I've put it aside for now until I have the right mind space again. I tend to come to that deck in the summertime. I remember I was using that deck a lot last July too. So we'll see. But in any event, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.